To me, it's December 25th. It's another day. And a lot of people will call me Scrooge. A lot of people will say, "What's wrong with you?" It's interesting that when you read in the Bible, there wasn't a snowflake, there wasn't a sleigh, there wasn't reindeer and a jolly old man who knows who's been good or bad. No Yuletide log, no chestnuts, no Bing Crosby. Society has created a role play holiday. It's all based on role play. I mean, I'm in Georgia. There's nothing wintry about yesterday, 74 degrees, and I felt the humidity rolling in the warehouse. I was like, wow, this is not winter. Most of the world is not under a winter blanket. I was privileged to grow up in Mammoth Lakes, which was a childhood dream, to be able to be in snow so deep. At one time, we got 15 feet in a week, and I tried to walk diagonal from my backyard to my neighbor's house, and I could not do it. I stepped into that snow when I got off the deck, and I went, poof. Okay, this is going to work well. I had to do this and get on top of it and swim out of the stuff. It was ridiculous. We had an A-frame shed in the yard, about 8 feet tall. Could not see it. It was way down there somewhere. One of our pine trees bent over so bad it stayed deformed like that for years. We get 20 to 40 feet of snow in Mammoth Lakes in the winter. You know, when I was a kid and you heard the holiday music and, oh, the weather outside is frightful. Nice, warm feel music. But you know what? I grew up with a very cold mother. Very cold mother. My mother was nasty. My mother was not sweet. She wasn't nice. My uncle called me yesterday and we had a talk about that. He said Sheila was never a happy woman. She never was. And when you see the photographs, shoulders are clenched up and she's not photogenic. She never was. My aunt, which was her sister, was the complete opposite. She was gorgeous. She was beautiful. She just had that effervescent happiness about her. And growing up in the house, you know, and I learned something before I was a Christian. When I was a kid, I learned that everything was about acting. Everything was about putting on a show for the people. You know, you've all met somebody. You ladies, you men, you people, young people, you met somebody. And they were nasty to you from the get-go, no reason. Nasty. And you go and tell somebody, what? Oh, she's really nice. Maybe there's something wrong with you. She's nice to everybody. You know what I've learned about the human condition? People are good at being actors. They'll be nice to 20,000 people over here, and then for no reason at all, they'll treat you like mud. I don't know why that is. And my mom, she put on a good show for the relatives. She put on a great show when people came up to visit. In fact, that was my salvation. When family came up to visit, I got a reprieve. The minute the campers and trucks and cars would roll out of town, my mom was back to the, pulled off the mask and I'm looking at Satan. And I grew up seeing something. Merry Christmas, lots of love, Mom and Dad. The same exact, almost like a mimeograph. Happy birthday, lots of love, Mom and Dad. It took me years to realize, what is love? Mama, don't hurt me. Daddy, don't hurt me no more. And you get out here in society, and love doesn't mean a blasted thing. I love my truck. I love my dog. I love my wife. I love that piece of furniture. Oh, I so love TJ Maxx. I so love Target. What does love mean? Well, there's eros, there's phileo, there's agape. There's even two other loves in there that I don't recall. Unfortunately, my greatest love is eros. I'm very erotic, very sensual. It's sad that I would get an A+ in eros. But agape? What does agape love look like? Is it, come on, ring those bells, light the Christmas tree? They mix paganism with Jesus. Jesus is the king, born for you and me. It sounds like music you'd hear to Hanna-Barbera's Yogi Bear. Tradition has become so strong in the United States, you're never going to get people to separate from it. Never, 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 never. Because it's feelings based. And I started thinking deeper. My mother was an unhappy woman. You know, I did what everybody did. Go get a tree, put up the decorations, put all the tinsel. 2 weeks later, it's out by the curb with tinsel flapping in the breeze. And you see the garbage truck pull up and the tree's thrown in the back. And you see the guy pull the thing. Oh. Growing up in LA, it's weird. You see the tree and you see stockings and you hear the holiday music, but you go outside and it's 90 degrees and there's no snow. There's no chimneys. And you see the day after Christmas, it's just like, row, 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 back to work, and everybody's back to being a butthole. What is this thing? Then I started doing reading after I became a Christian, and I found some disturbing things. A lot of stuff that's been passed down that's false. People say the three wise men. It doesn't say three. It doesn't say it. It doesn't say it at all. The so-called Christmas story has been, it's, forgive me, people, I'm going to go into something that a lot of people are not familiar with. And we'll go into some things that you know very well. Now, after Jesus was born at Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star in the east and have come to worship him. And when Herod the king heard it, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. In gathering together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he began to inquire of them where the Christ was to be born. And they said to him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah. For out of you shall come forth a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. That Herod secretly called the Magi and ascertained from them the time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and make careful search for the child, and when you have found him, report to me that I too may come and worship him. And having heard the king, they went their way, and lo, the star which they had seen in the east went on before them, and it came and stood over where the child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. And they came into the house and saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him, and opening their treasures, they presented to him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned by God in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their own country by another way. Now, when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, arise and take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt. You know, this was not the same day Jesus was born. The child, no longer a babe, no longer in a manger. This was some time after. How do we get Santa Claus and stockings and Yuletide logs and mistletoe out of that? All the little nativity scenes show 3 wise men leaning over a baby Jesus. Sometimes Christians, though good intention, with sincere intentions, can be sincerely wrong, and it confuses people. I remember as a kid going to the United Methodist Church, and you go to Sunday school, and they'd have a flannel graph ark, a Noah's Ark. And it shows this giant elephant head and a giant giraffe and old man Noah with a beard like ZZ Top and his wife next to him. And you're like, how do they get all the animals on that thing? And I'm sorry, but the ark in Sunday school was made by women, housewives, that Barney eyes everything. And they turn it into triviality, and people, scientists and people that think that they're smarter than Christians, look at that and go, isn't that cute? No, the ark was what, 560, 600 feet long? And if you take animals in their infant stage, a lot smaller. And people don't realize that. And we put 3 wise men. We even have a song, We 3 Kings of Orient Are. I did a little studying, and they said Magi very well could have come from what used to be Persia, Iran. And it's interesting. These were not Jewish people. They were Middle Easterners, not Muslims. Islam wasn't around then. Middle Easterners. And they were studying the heavens. They didn't have telescopes. Now stop and think about this. They didn't have telescopes, but they're looking up at the stars and they see a star. And they talk about, what is this? And read what it says. Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, where is he who has been born King of the Jews? How do these Middle Easterners know about all that? Something's been lost today. Today it's about children, it's about presents, it's about eggnog, it's about women looking like a Christmas ornament with the ugly sweater with reindeer and antlers and lights and goofy, silly, childish things. And people get mad at me for this, but I've got to say this. Christmas has nothing to do with Christ. Nothing. 0. Complete 0. It is an emotionally driven tradition. The 40s and the 50s and 60s, we had, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. Even though they don't get it in the Philippines. We in North America have turned this into a complete role play. We talk about role play in the bedroom. We talk about Dungeons and Dragons role play, but Christians, they talk about Dungeons and Dragons. They condemn it. They say it's the occult. They say it's role play. Well, what are we doing with Christmas? The same thing. We've taken a pagan festivity, otherwise known as the winter solstice. Look it up. Most Christians listening to me, they're not going to do it. They're not going to, no, I'm not going to listen to this guy. Or they may listen, and they may be on the other side of the screen going, look at this clown. The word Christmas has nothing to do with Jesus. It's Catholic, Christ Mass. And I'm a Christian. I don't do Mass. I'm not a Catholic. And you got to understand something. There's a lot of things that people don't understand. I'm going to give you an illustration. You see this right here? You see the map? That's called the Sinai Peninsula. But guess what? That was named by not the locals, not the people who grew up out there. You look over here. I don't know if you can see it, but that's called the land of Midian. But if you look on this map, this is Egypt. Over here, okay? I'm not going to be able to do this because I can't see where I'm pointing. But it shows way up here in desert, way up here. It writes possible sites of the crossing of the Red Sea. One is north of Etham, and there's no water there. There's an area called the Bitter Lakes region. Once again, people downplaying the Bible, making it look like, well, you know. But you read in Exodus, the horse and the rider he is thrown into the sea, not a lake. The mighty waters. You don't have a little dry lake in Egypt and call it the mighty waters. And they have found, not here, not this one, not this. This is what? The Gulf of Suez? Look, it's over here. The Gulf of Aqaba. The Israelites came out of Egypt and headed due east, went due south, came to the bottom or near the bottom of the Sinai Peninsula, and God did this on purpose. I believe in dispensationalism. God did some things in times that he doesn't repeat today. You've got these makeup queen, charismatic, Southern Belle, goofball women with hair this big, makeup so thick, I could cover my whole house in it. Fake eyelashes, eyeliner. I'm so blessed by God. And they're just silly. And they think that signs and wonders are for right now. Yeah, you getting richer, you buying a mansion, air-conditioned doghouses, Lear jets, Christian amusement parks, Christian cruises, you name it. Really? You look at the story of the birth of Jesus, it's quiet. It's a non-event for most people. No room for him at the inn. The innkeeper didn't know who this was, nor did he care. Family with a kid, okay. You're sorry, no room, boys and girls. The president comes to town. We got to clear the roads and get everybody out of there and make way for the president. Jesus Christ is the living God, the master of the universe. And he's basically housed in a stable. I mean, come on. Smelly, dirty. Catholic Church has placed Mary on a pedestal and called her the Mother of God. She is not the Mother of God. God has no mother. He has no beginning. He's eternal. And when you teach your kids to sing happy birthday to Jesus, are you serious? He doesn't have a birthday. He's eternal. He stepped out of glory, wrapped himself with flesh, and punctuated our earthly equilibrium for 33 years. You want to talk to the ants, you have to become an ant. I can yell at the fire ants in my backyard and go, "Hey, ant, zot, zot." They're not going to understand me. But if I was to become an ant, then he became like us, but was without sin. Emmanuel. Jehovah's Witnesses get this so wrong. Emmanuel meaning God with us. Jesus wasn't God. He never declared himself to be God. Oh, you want to bet? Bible scholars, Jehovah's Witnesses are not. They're not witnesses of Jehovah at all. They don't follow Jehovah, and they're not a witness to him. They're following Satan, who is the father of lies. That goes for the Mormons. The Mormons believe in many gods, polytheism. They believe that Jesus and Lucifer were brothers. They believe that Mary and God had Humpty Dumpty. Don't believe me? Ask them. Mormons also believe that their wives will be eternally pregnant in heaven. I don't know what woman today, in today's 2025, would enjoy that religion and think, oh yes, I want to be eternally pregnant and think of pickles and ice cream and have morning pains and throw up every day. Mormonism, Islam, men-dominated religions. The Catholic Church, men-dominated religions. And then you got a pope who sits on the toilet and poops and calls himself infallible. You've got to be kidding me. And the Catholics, oh, this is a big deal for them. Christmas. And yet you have in a Bible possible site of the Red Sea crossing. Way over here. Nowhere where it really was. And it diminishes. It denies. It patronizes the Word of God. From a caricature of Noah's Ark that looks cartoon, and it looks like Barney's hanging on. We all just need to learn to get along, boys and girls. And then you wonder why kids go out and go, really? You wonder why the churches are closing their doors in America. One caught on fire in Illinois yesterday. That was sad. But churches all across the landscape are closing. And I was talking to my friend last night on the phone about this. I was going to go live, but my uncle called. We had a long talk, and I called my friend, and I said, I'm not sure what I want to talk about tonight. I like to talk when I have the fire, and I feel the Spirit. And we both said, it's Christmas Day. Nobody's going to be watching this. They're all going to be doing their festivities and presents. He said, I still think you should go live. It'd be interesting to see who shows up. Not everybody celebrates Christmas, number one. Number two, I've got people on this channel that have dysfunctional families like I did, and they're not going to get together with them. And to those of you that are alone today, stand strong. I'm all by myself. I'm not invited to any feast, anything, nothing. I've been here 6 years. I have not made a close friend. I have a couple black women that call and check on me. And they're good souls. But I'm not close. You know, when you get older, and I had a talk with my uncle. He was born and raised in the state of Virginia. So by all accounts, he's a Southerner. He lives way up in northeastern Washington state. He lived in Caslow for years. He ran and owned Mammoth Sporting Goods. And I used to come home from school. On the way home, I'd shovel the front porch, put ski rentals back in the racks for him, sweep the floors for a little money, or he'd give me free ski rentals. My uncle was good to me. And he told me something last night that shocked me. We were talking about life in general, and he said, I want you to know, Michael, that I love you. And for all the SHIT you've been through, you have come through it. And we talked about my mother, and he said, she was a horrible human being. And I told you years ago, there's no reason for you to keep in touch with them because what would it profit? My mother is not a Christian. And that bothers me. but I don't have a relationship with her. We talked about this. We live in a world today where people don't take accountability for the abuse and the wrongs they did. My friend that I talked to talked about growing up with his mother and a very, very abusive father. And you got cheesy Christians saying, well, you're a Christian now. You should forget all that. Okay, well, you forget all the stuff you went through. I'm going to tell you something. Those wise men, those magi, they didn't have this. They did not have this. They didn't have a Christian radio station. They didn't have TBN. They didn't tune into John and Jan and Paul Crouch and Kenneth Copeland and all these clowns and Joyce Myers. I'd love to be a movie producer and really put it the way it was. Shepherds, smelly, body odor, stinky, living out there. No shower, no KOA campground. I mean, they didn't stop and grab a burger at McDonald's. Who knows what they were eating out there? I don't know if they got down and were grazing the grass with the sheep. And we've turned the birth of Christ into a joke. Spoiled kids today will rush under the tree. They don't care about God. They have no interest in that. Presents, gimme, gimme, gimme. That's it. And I love how Christians in America say, well, we always read the Christmas story. Well, la-di-da. It's not the Christmas story. It is not the Christmas story. And I'm going to say it again. Never do you see the disciples say, Merry Christmas. Oh, oh, oh. You don't see it. The early church, the Puritans in America, did not celebrate Christmas. They believed it was pagan. England brought it over. And look, we don't even make any deal about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is the purest holiday we can have along with the 4th of July and your birthday. And Thanksgiving is a minute little speed bump. Why? Because it's easier for us to complain. People don't want to sit down and be thankful. They don't want to make a big deal. You can't market Thanksgiving. You can't sell a bunch of stuff except turkeys, yams, cranberries, and potatoes. And the day after Thanksgiving, let the consumer corporatism begin. Da 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 da. Let's carry the Olympic torch to the stores and get them rich. What are they doing for us? Zero. The Magi came bringing gifts, and all of those gifts were not just, oh, I'm going to go to a store and buy somebody something. Those wise men were wise. They knew this was a king who was eternal. And the gifts they brought represented that. Gold, which is fitting for a king. Frankincense, an offering, a fragrance. And myrrh. Why myrrh? Why would you give a child myrrh? Because these men, unlike the religious Pharisees in Judaism, knew that this one would die for the sins of the people, and myrrh was for embalming. I admit, when I was a kid, I liked Christmas because of what I could get out of it. I wanted Tonka trucks, erector sets. I wanted anything steel. Even as a kid, I didn't want plastic crap. I wanted Tonka trucks. And you know, you think about our toys back then, they were all designed to teach us to get a job. Easy bake, Betty Crocker oven. You know, you played house. Women played house. They had a steel 2-story dollhouse. I remember that well. Now, what are the kids playing with? Nothing real. They showed a guy that created a video game or was a video game programmer, made big money. I don't know if he had a Ferrari or Lamborghini, but he drove through a mountain tunnel, was driving like a squirrel with people in the car, and wrecked into the side of the mountain, killing himself. And I wrote in there, I said, unfortunately, he failed to realize video games and reality are not the same. And I'm sorry. We got a lot of people addicted to video games and shooting. And I've always had concerns about that. Mike, that isn't going to make me become a serial killer. Are you sure about that? All you want to do is sit there with your hand controller and go. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. The only time that things began to change in my life was in 1985. I got saved. I sat in a preacher's office for 3 hours at Prescott Heights Baptist Church. Reverend William Wimmer was the youth pastor. And I went in there and I said, what about the dinosaurs? What about this? What about this? He answered every single question. He gave me gospel tracts. He gave me resources. He never used circular reasoning. And I broke. I cried. And I said, well, I already know I'm a sinner. Now you've convinced me who Jesus is. I did not come out of that church that night and speak in tongues and go yabba dabba doo, scooby dooby dooby, ba 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 boo. I didn't have the power to heal people. It was a quiet thing. That's the way God tends to do it. And over the years, I made a lot of mistakes. But it was the first week. Nobody told me these things would happen. The first week after I got saved, I was reading the Bible before I was saved, but it was just like the Sesame Street. Mana, 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 mana. Now I'm reading and it's almost like ballpark stadium lights went, poof. Whoa, I get it. I see this. 1 Corinthians talks about that. The natural man does not understand the things of God. They're foolishness to him. The atheist, the scholar, the university professor, your public school teacher, they laugh at Christianity. Why? Because they're natural. They were born once, not twice. We're all born once, but have you been born twice? Born again. The spiritual birth that takes place when you recognize you cannot get to heaven by your own whatever. You cannot pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You cannot bake pies for all the old ladies in your neighborhood and give rides to the homeless, hand out donations. You can do all that all your life and go straight to hell. If you don't know Christ, I don't care what else you've done. I don't care if you're Bill Gates, George Soros, Blackstone, BlackRock, and all the corrupt corporations that pat themselves on the back and wear suits and ties and got the nicest autos and nicest vacation getaways and own a castle in Europe. If you're dead, you're dead. And you're walking zombie dead, waiting to be cast into the lake of fire. The lake of fire, excuse me. People don't want to talk about that. Mike, this is Christmas. No, it isn't. It's December 25th. In ancient Europe, this was winter solstice time. Family bed was wide open. Kids, parents, other people getting drunk, revelry, decadence, debauchery, the occult. And they practiced Yuletide stuff and all kinds of crazy things. Kissing under the mistletoe. Look it up. Look it up. demonic stuff. And Catholicism was ravaging Europe. The papal system, the Catholic Church was on a power trip. The Catholic Church did not want you to read this. They did not want you to be set free. You need to listen to papal authority. You go to the priest for confession. You finger the rosary beads. You pay penance. You go to purgatory. You do this, you do this, you do this. You do the sacraments of the church. That is not what Jesus Christ taught. And it's interesting. Everybody says Merry Christmas to everybody, including atheists. Atheists are that they didn't believe in God at all. They don't. I love it when Christians try to tell me people are nicer during this time of year, which proof that Jesus is a reason for the season. That is a lie. I notice every year between Thanksgiving and New Year's, people get worse on the roads. They get more attitudes in the store. And then they want to make them feel good. Merry Christmas, Mike. Thanks. Have a good day. You want to assuage the guilt of being a butthole all year. And now you're going to buy gifts and make yourself look like a Christmas ornament hanging from a tree with all your silly wear. And bake cookies and have an eggnog and play the music and have the relatives over. And the people that can't stand each other and they got to put up with each other. And yeah, okay. I'd rather go back to that dusty road. Wow, I'd rather go back to that dusty road. I'd like to go back in time and be on a camel. They had an interesting gait. I had a keyboard years ago, and I did a very interesting version of dun 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 dun. And I had music. I set I can't remember what the sound was I used, but it reminded me of camels loping along with their gait. And I think of, you can have your trees. I'm deeper than that, people. That's why I have such a problem with lust. Because I'm made for so much more. I have so much passion. And where do I go with it in America? To a corporate world? Wow, that's thrilling. They don't like people like me. They do not like people like me. And I've noticed Americans, it's like there's no mystique anymore. Do you go to Taco Bell? Do you go to Chick-fil-A? And everybody's branded in corporate. The black people all wear Nike clothes. They look like a walking check mark. Nike hat, Nike jacket, Nike shirt, Nike underoos, Nike pants, Nike socks. Okay, wow, you bought and owned, baby. What is there for me? I struggle deeply with lust and eroticism. I've majored in eroticism. Eros love. I get an A in that. But agape. Oh, people are fickle. Lots of love. Mom and dad came into my room, pulled all the drawers out. Christmas Eve. What a beautiful time. It's the most wonderful time. Throwing stuff in my room. There'll be dresser drawers flying and seashells flying and all my toys thrown on the floor. And my mom comes in with a trash can and says, "Clean it!" Oh, Merry Christmas. And that night when the grandparents come over, "Hi, Merry Christmas, everybody. Here's some cookies." My mother was a B.I. Nasty. I ran out of the house that Christmas Eve, stood by a big gumdrop bush, sobbing. Timmy Mace across the street, "Michael, what's wrong?" I couldn't talk. What was going on with my monster of a mother? Why'd you come in my room and smash everything? My mother was evil. Democrats celebrate Christmas. Ooh, sit down. Sit down. We're going to go turbo. Democrats, Merry Christmas. Oh, you support abortion and gay marriage. You're going to tell me now that Jesus is the reason for the season? You support racism. You listen to media that lies and distorts the facts, and you don't begin your day reading this. What is Christmas? It's garbage. It's complete garbage. I'm sorry. I'm going to step on the toes of a lot of evangelical born-again saints that are trapped and chained to these vain traditions which dishonor the living God. And it's women-driven. Man, if you want proof that America is controlled by women, look at the facts. Women are in all the HR positions. And boy, when a man gets called to the office, ooh, do they love to grind them like a pestle and a mortar. Get revenge on all the guys because of their man hate. Let me ride a camel. I can't turn on comments on the live right now, David. I set that before. It has to be done before I go live. I'm sorry. The proof is in, the evidence is in. When I turn off the chat, more people watch, more people like, more people subscribe. Chat is too much of a distraction. People don't want me interacting and cutting off the flow. And one thing I'm learning is there's a group of people in America that are tired of the same things I am, and they want passion. They want something greater. They're tired of corporate America. They're tired of lying politicians, both sides of the fence, and we want something more. I love my YouTube community, but you all have to understand, you guys do interrupt my flow. You do definitely interfere with the streams. This is all twisted up. And I don't like that. I've got something to say. He's not reading my comment. He doesn't even notice me. Children. An adult daycare center is all chat was starting to become. I will never, ever, ever be a pastor. That is not a calling for Michael. I don't meet the qualifications. But I would love to stand in a church and be able to teach, or a building. I work in warehouse, pulling very heavy parts and machinery. I'm 59. I'm in great shape, but I'm tired when I come home. Tired. And I thank God that He provided me a job and He takes care of my needs. But I don't make what I'm worth. My supervisor's already gone to management and said, Michael, you've got to give him a raise. You can't do this. When I look at what people make on the internet that have no talent, when a woman can show her body on fans only or OnlyFans and be decadent, what an insult to me. I got to work my butt off. And I got to pay taxes on a little money I make on a CD. And Georgia here, they don't take out enough. I had to pay $350 in taxes last year. My refund used to be somewhere between $1,200 and $1,500 by the federal. And I'm not making big money. And they are taxing and taxing and taxing. My property taxes went up. And every time you buy anything in the store in Georgia, including your groceries, there's tax. And where's this all going? Down the potty to fund a bunch of foolishness. What is today? It's December 25th. It's the haves versus the have-nots. You have the people in poverty. They can't afford gifts for each other. There ain't no Santa Claus there. There ain't no chimney. There ain't no snow. So there's no place for the sleigh to land. Come on. And people get mad at me for saying this. You, as Christians, teach your children a lie about Santa Claus. You teach your children a lie when you're singing Happy Birthday, Jesus. when adults want to act like children. You're supposed to tell your children the truth. How many Christian men and women teach their children about the Passover? Talk about a powerful event. You are to take the sheep or whatever, slaughter it, and wipe the blood on the doorpost. You know, parents don't want to talk about that. They want to make everything immature and childish. Frosty the Snowman. No, the Passover was serious business. For those that follow God's directive, they were in their homes, and the angel of death came through Egypt, and it was a horrifying thing. Because those did not believe the firstborn was smitten, and the lamenting and the weeping. And finally, and only then, did a stubborn, obstinate, proud, lifted up, godless fool man named Pharaoh say, out! Get your people and get out of here. Then it wasn't enough. After they got a good ways down the dusty trail, he sent all his chariots after him. Man never learns, does he? And they went down. The Israelites, scholars say there was probably 1 million of them that left Egypt. They were there for 400 years in the land of Goshen. They went down the Sinai, on the east side of the Gulf of Suez, south towards the Red Sea, circled back north, and they ended up fenced in by the Gulf of Aqaba. And they started crying and lamenting. What? There weren't enough graves in Egypt? You brought us out here to die? Moses held that staff up. Whoa. This is for all the lonely people thinking that life has passed you by. Don't give up until you drink from the silver cup and ride that highway in the sky. God just made a highway through the ocean, people. Get ye and go. And before the last Israeli foot got to the other side in what is called the land of Midian, that's what the Bible says. And Pharaoh's charioteers were racing with bloodlust on their hands and in their hearts, chariot wheels flying. He caused the chariot wheels to come off. And when the last Israeli foot stepped on the dry ground, bodies everywhere. I do not like people that diminish the power and the truth of God and say possibly red sight crossing. Really? There wasn't even water up there. What, they stepped through a pond? Yeah, because you know what? Whoever put that in there, they didn't believe. You got Christians that deny the Genesis account. They don't think that's important about a day or millions and billions of years. You got Christians that'll sit there and say, well, a day could mean many things. It could, but it doesn't. There was evening and there was morning the first day. There was evening and there was morning the second day. And I say this over and over again because if I'm going to be an effective teacher, you do repetition and repetition in the facts. Because right now, today, nobody cares about creationism. They care about feeling good and presents and eggnog and visiting all the relatives. And I believe in family. Those of you that can spend time with a good, loving family, do it. And thank God that you have that. I don't have that luxury. And I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I didn't get up and cry. Because you know what? People say, enjoy the magic of Christmas. That's all it is. Magic, witchcraft, idolatry, occult, you name it. It's all there. Most of the world doesn't live in winter climes, and we have courier arrives and all that. How is it that the birth of Jesus is associated with snowflakes? That makes no rational sense, does it? Well, because now you're getting into something deep. There's 3 countries up north called Sweden, Finland, Norway. Some pretty dark stuff that came out of those cultures. Krampus, Odin, all kinds of crazy stuff out of Scandinavian culture. And the Catholic Church has always been a buffet religion. Always been a buffet. It is not the same as Christianity. It's not the same as the Apostle Paul and the early church in the book of Acts. Not at all. And we have so many people in America that claim to be know-it-alls, and they've never read anything. They've never studied this. They just get mad. You're attacking my Catholic Church. You darn right I'm attacking it. Why would I not? It's false. I would challenge anybody to find this book and read it. You could probably get it through eBay or Amazon. The 2 Babylons, or the papal worship, proved to be the worship of Nimrod and his wife. There's a whole chapter in here on Easter and Christmas and Lady Day and where all these things started. The festivals of Rome are innumerable, but 5 of the most important may be singled out for elucidation. Christmas Day, Lady Day, Easter, the Nativity of St. John, and the Feast of the Assumption. Each and all of these can be proved to be Babylonian. And first, as to the festival in honor of the birth of Christ, or Christmas, how comes it that festival was connected with the 25th of December? There is not a word in the scriptures about the precise day of his birth or the time of the year when he was born. What is recorded there implies that at what time soever his birth took place, it could not have been the 25th of December. At the time that an angel announced his birth to the shepherds of Bethlehem, they were feeding their flocks by night in the open fields. Now, no doubt the climate of Palestine is not so severe as the climate of this country. But even there, though the heat of the day be considerable, the cold of the night from December to February is very piercing. And it was not the custom for the shepherds of Judea to watch their flocks in the open fields later than about the end of October. So if you do some study, you find out some things. There's a lot of stuff. I'm not going to read this whole thing. But we have a problem in America of assuming ourselves to be experts when we have nothing to back it up. You like what you like, and you think that that's proof. And it's the women. And it's men who want to be simps and get along with the women that all say Jesus is the reason for the season. No, he is not. I challenge you to find anywhere in Scripture where the word Christmas tree is, or Christmas, or Merry Christmas, or Yuletide log, or Rudolph, or Santa, or sleighs. Why is it that the attributes of Santa mimic God? He knows who's been naughty or nice. He can get everywhere around the world except all the poor countries and leave gifts. I asked my friend last night, does it even make any difference that I have passion on YouTube? Is it really going to change anything? Or am I just going to have a bunch of people that just agree because we're all of the same mind? He said, no, because you affected me, and I know you affected many others. You caused me to get deeper with God and my wife, and we bought Bibles and we're going to church. But we both believed we're not going to make America a better place. That's a lie. That's a misnomer. So my focus is starting to shift, and I'm starting to go, the only difference that I can make is if it's based in eternity. When I was young, I wanted a 4x4 K5 Blazer or a pickup truck, you know. And when you get older, and I work with, we've got stuff from the 50s, mechanical parts, trucks. And I'm amazed, no matter how cool something is, that all rusts, seals go bad, plastic becomes brittle, seat material cracks and falls into crumbs. The windshield rubber eventually dry rots. Nothing we make lasts forever. And we're so short-sighted. We get passionate about a truck. We get passionate about tinsel and bric-a-brac. And I see more women's houses filled with wreaths. Oh my gosh, why don't we bring that up? Why don't we bring that up? Where is it? It's going to take me a minute, so you have to bear with me. People were so stupid in the Victorian era they put candles on the Christmas trees, and then they wondered why their 1890s Victorian house burned to the ground. All because you want to have your tree with lights on it. And even now, in America, people's homes burn to the ground because of cheap Christmas lights on the tree or around the inside of the house. Little hint to y'all, if it doesn't say UL on the plug, don't buy them. Underwriter Laboratories was the standard, and you're seeing more and more electronic things without UL on the end of the plug. You want to set your house on fire, keep buying that crap. Buy something that says UL. They don't start fires. A lot of footnotes in this Bible backed up with facts. And this author is saying that the Catholic Church is totally Babylon resurrected. The Pope Mitre, the system of popes, Mass, all of that originated in Babylonian false religion. People get very mad and say you're Catholic bashing. I'm not Catholic bashing. I'm truth telling. And the Catholics have taken over parts of Israel and made shrines out of stuff. We don't even know if that's where Jesus was birthed. Lady of Ascension and all these crazy things. And my God did not tell us to make shrines and temples. He does not dwell in places made with human hands. He clothed himself briefly in flesh. It was an essential principle of the Babylonian system that the sun, or Baal, was the one only God. When therefore Tammuz was worshipped as God incarnate, that implied also that he was an incarnation of the sun. In the Hindu mythology, which is admitted to be essentially Babylonian, this comes out very distinctly. There, Surya, or the sun, is represented as being incarnate and born for the purpose of subduing the enemies of the gods, who without such a birth could not have been subdued. It was no more astronomic festival than that the pagans celebrated at the winter solstice. The festival at Rome was called the Feast of Saturn, and the mode in which it was celebrated there showed whence it had been derived. The feast, as regulated by Caligula, lasted 5 days. Loose reins were given to drunkenness and revelry, slaves had a temporary emancipation and used all manner of freedoms with their masters. This was homosexuality, lesbianism, you name it. This was precisely the way in which, according to Berosus, the drunken festival of the month, Thebeth, answering to our December, in other words, the festival of Bacchus, was celebrated in Babylon. It was the custom, says he, during the 5 days it lasted for masters to be in subjection to their servants, and one of them ruled the house clothed in a purple garment like a king. This purple-robed servant was called Zoganes or Zoganes, whatever, the man of sport and wantonness, and answered exactly to the Lord of misrule, that in the dark ages was chosen in all popish countries to head the revels of Christmas. The wassailing bowl of Christmas had its precise counterpart in the drunken festival of Babylon, and many of the other observances still kept up among ourselves at Christmas came from the very same quarter. The candles in some parts of England lighted on Christmas Eve and used so long as the festive season lasts were equally lighted by the pagans on the eve of the festival of the Babylonian god to do honor to him. For it was one of the distinguishing peculiarities of his worship to have lighted wax candles on his altars. The Christmas tree, now so common among us, was equally common in pagan Rome and pagan Egypt. In Egypt, that tree was the palm tree. In Rome, it was the fir. The palm tree denoting the pagan Messiah as Baal Tamar, the fir referring to him as Baal Berith, the mother of Adonis, the sun god and great mediatorial divinity, was mystically said to have been changed into a tree, and when in that state to have brought forth her divine son. If the mother was a tree, the son must have been recognized as a man branch, and this entirely accounts for the putting of the Yule log into the fire on Christmas Eve and the appearance of the Christmas tree the next morning as Zoroashta, the seed of the woman, which name also signified Ignigena, or born of the fire. He has to enter the fire on Mother Night, that he may be born the next day out of it as the branch of God, or the tree that brings all the divine gifts to men. But why, it may be asked, does he enter the fire under the symbol of a log? To understand this, it must be remembered that the divine child born at the winter solstice was born as a new incarnation of the great God after that God had been cut in pieces on purpose to revenge his death upon the murderers. Now the great God, cut off in the middle of his power and glory, was symbolized as a huge tree, stripped of all its branches and cut down almost to the ground. But the great serpent, the symbol of the life restoring, Asclepius, I can't even say it, the medical symbol, Asclepius, twists itself around the dead stalk, and lo, at its side it sprouts a young tree, a tree of an entirely different kind, and it is destined never to be cut down by hostile power, even the palm tree, the well-known symbol of victory. The Christmas tree, as has been stated, was generally at Rome a different tree than the fir, but the very same idea, as was implied in the palm tree, was implied in the Christmas fir, for that covertly symbolized the newborn God as Baal Bereth, the Lord of the covenant, and thus shadowed forth the perpetuity and the everlasting nature of his power, now that after having fallen before his enemies, he had risen triumphant over them all. Therefore, the 25th of December, the day that was observed at Rome as the day when the victorious God reappeared on earth, was held at the Natalis Invicti Solis, the birthday of the unconquered sun. Now the Yule log is the dead stalk of Nimrod, defied as the sun god, but cut down by his enemies. The Christmas tree is Nimrod Redivivus, the slain god come to life again. In the light reflected by the above statement on customs that still linger among us, the origin of which has been lost in the midst of whore antiquity, H-O-A-R, not prostitute whore, let the reader look at the singular practices still kept up in the South on Christmas Eve of kissing under the mistletoe bough. That mistletoe bough in the Druidic superstition which, as we have seen, was derived from Babylon, was a representation of the Messiah, the man, the branch. The mistletoe was regarded as a divine branch, a branch that came from heaven and grew upon a tree that sprang out of the earth. Thus, by the engrafting of the celestial branch into the earthly tree, heaven and earth, that sin had severed, were joined together, and thus the mistletoe bough became the token of divine reconciliation to man. The kiss being the well-known token of pardon and reconciliation. Whence could such an idea have come? May it not have come from the 85th Psalm? Mercy and truth are met together. The righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Truth shall spring out of the earth in consequences of the coming of the promised Savior, and the righteousness shall look down from heaven. Certainly it is that psalm was written soon after Babylonian captivity, and as multitudes of the Jews after that event still remain in Babylon under the guidance of inspired men such as Daniel. Boy, these are long sentences. As a part of the divine word, it must have been communicated to them as well as their kinsmen in Palestine. Babylon was at that time the center of the civilized world, and thus paganism, corrupting the divine symbol as it ever has done, had opportunities of sending forth its debased counterfeit of the truth to all the ends of the earth through the mysteries that were affiliated with the great central system in Babylon. Thus, the very customs of Christmas, still existent, cast surprising light at once on the revelations of grace made to all the earth and the efforts by Satan and his emissaries to materialize, carnalize, and degrade them. People don't like this. They don't like it when I say this. Okay? There's nothing Christian, biblical, or Jesus about Christmas. Nothing. Zero. Women are different than men. They are emotionally based thinkers. Men tend to be concrete. And that's why the two sexes war. One is about feelings, nothing more than feelings. The other one is about concrete logic. So we can seem to be cold, uncaring, and indifferent, and women don't like that. Women can be emotional meltdowns and messes, and we don't like that. We have to tread carefully. We have to be careful in everything we say and do because women get hurt easily. And then you got to spend the rest of the day over one comment that you didn't think was hurtful, explaining how it wasn't hurtful, and your whole day's been ruined over her emotional meltdown. Isn't that fun? Sometimes I think marriage is a complete trap. We in America and we in the world have let women have more power over us than we care to admit. I don't celebrate Christmas. I don't say Merry Christmas to others because I don't believe in it. People may think that's bad, that's terrible. I mean, sure, it'd be nice to be with a family that loved you and you ate meal together and enjoyed each other's company. But I don't even have that. I don't have it. And I never really have. It's funny. The sky doesn't look any different today. Nothing looks, everybody's holed up in their houses. Most of the people on the street, you will not see family or anybody come over. Most of the people live alone. They'll hide away in their house all day because everything's closed. It's a ghost town. I was going to go to Lowe's after work and get a bucket of paint and start working on the back room, and I thought, nah, I don't want to go to the store tonight. So I'll have to wait till tomorrow. Why would Democrats celebrate Christmas if it's so Christian? Let that sink in, people. Do Democrats believe in this book? But they say they do. They support false media. They support lying. They cover up for Jeffrey Epstein. They cover up for all the crazy stuff that the Democrats do. They promote gay marriage. They promote child transgenderism and child surgeries to change your sex. Show me where the Bible says that any of that is okay. But they all say Merry Christmas. What does Christmas mean to you, Democrats? Proof that is pagan to everybody. And Christians, shame on them. You cannot get Christians to see the truth about it. They've wrapped their emotions about it. They've lied to themselves, brainwashed themselves to say that the Christmas tree signifies eternal life. I just read in there. It signifies Baal and Babylonian and false religion. You did not come up with the Christmas tree. You did not come up with that. They did. And America, we've said it. Those that don't learn from history are bound to repeat it. And Christians lead the way in bringing back, restoring Babylonian cult. And you tell them that. And I notice people that are rude to me all year, unkind, uncivilized. Merry Christmas, Mike. Oh, now you're going to be all sanctimonious. And you're going to be a jerk every day of the year. Jesus did come to earth. That's awesome. But we were to never enshrine his birth. The apostles didn't do it. I'll bet you, and you never saw a Christmas service in the book of Acts, a candlelight service. Y'all say you want to be biblical and you want to comment on me wearing my feminine attire, and you beat on that drum. Yeah, there's just a couple verses about that, but there's tons of verses about making idols, worshiping idols, praying to idols. Bible says, be not conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Most Christians have been transformed by the culture, not this, not good resources, not truth. And on that note, I'm going to snack away because I'm going to enjoy this day. I'll work on a jigsaw puzzle. I will listen to music. I will call some friends, make a video. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark streets shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. It wasn't Christmas. It was God wrapped in flesh with a specific mission. He will save his people from their sins. The gospel, the good news. Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plain, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strain. You know what? I would love to go back in time and be a witness. I'd like to see Mary and Joseph. Women like to talk about Mary. Mary was not like any woman living today. She was so humble, so utterly humble. Mary and today's women have zero in common. Mary wasn't an attitude. She didn't have a bumper sticker to say, my other car is a broom. I'm a B word and I'm proud of it. I have to find something. It amazes me how smart people think that they are, but they know nothing. Nothing. The Catholic Church has made a whole lot about Mary, and we call it Mariolatry for a reason. Why am I having problems finding what I want to find? I know scripture, I just don't always remember the exact address. And we need to realize something, folks. Wow, I really cannot find this. This is stupid. I'm dumb. This is important. Catholics call this their High Holy Day. It's not holy. What they are celebrating is not holy. Paganism is never holy. Never. Never, never, never. Always remember that. And just because you don't know what you're talking about, just because you like something and it's been part of your traditional life, doesn't mean it's right at all. And you can like something, you can go on and on about stuff. Wow. I'm having trouble finding what they call the Magnificat. I don't know why I cannot find that. It's right in the first couple chapters of one of the Gospels, and I cannot find it. Yeah, it's not in John, it's not in Luke. I can't find it, and it's like, that drives me nuts. How can I not find something so simple? Not in Matthew. That's weird. I cannot believe I cannot find that. But Mary says, I rejoice in God, my Savior. He came to her, considered her humble estate. If I had the chat on, somebody could look it up for me, but cannot find it. Strange, 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 strange. And Mary did not idolize herself. Mary was not these TikTok queens. Mary was not these social media women today. Very little is known about her. She was obscure by most people. And a Catholic Church has exalted her to the heavens. And there are Catholics that believe Mary was perpetually a virgin. No, she wasn't. James, the book of the Bible, was written by the half-brother of Jesus. After the birth of Jesus, then Joseph went into his wife and had sexual consummation with her. And I ran into a Catholic man who was an NFL ref, told me she was a virgin. I said, no. Read what it says. The disciples came and said, Jesus, your mother and your brothers are here. And the guy, when I showed him that scripture, told me I was full of shit. I just showed you what it said, Bill. You believe in Catholicism. You don't believe in this. It is amazing how rigidly people will hold on to a lie. Why is it Michael cannot find that prayer by Mary? Strange that I cannot do that. But anyways, we're detracting because I'm losing my spot here. Nothing in Matthew. I cannot believe I cannot find that simple thing. So it's amazing. It's not in Mark. Mark's birth, the recounting of the birth of Jesus, it just boom. It goes preaching of John the Baptist. Then it talks about the baptism of Jesus. It totally skips the birth. And you get into Matthew, Mark, Luke. I thought it was in Luke. Zacharias prophesied and had something to say. Nothing in Luke about it. Strange. I don't know why I can't find it. That really irritates me. But Mary did not boast in herself. She would have never said, wait, let me take a selfie. I'm the mother of God. Let that sink in how different 2025 is. My uncle said last night, he said, I believe the internet has had a very negative effect on the morals, on the manners of people. And he's right. But try to get off of it. You want online banking? You got to go to the internet. You want to apply for a job? Got to go to the internet. All your companies, every company you work for now, you got to get on the internet and deal with company emails. Every place. It's ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. But internet has become a temple for diva complexes. It's become a temple for everybody. Put themselves out there. Put themselves out there like they're a god, a know-it-all. I came on here just to be myself. I started back in 2011 with Pacific Ocean Asia. 3,500 subs I finally amassed. And it wasn't the same as this channel. This channel has been a powder keg. This channel has been explosive to me in the growth. We have doubled the subs. The views per video are huge. I had one video on that I did in Hong Kong that gained 100,000 views, was getting 1,000 a week. People like eye candy, me an American talking about Hong Kong issues right there in Hong Kong with Chinese walking back and forth. Oh yeah, that got everybody's attention. And people get on the internet and they follow trends. The world is like that. It's like The Land Before Time. My sister, every time a kid movie came out, the kids saw the movie and they bought all the toys. That's America. Toy Story, got to get all the toys. Home Alone, got to get all the toys. And the same thing. They get some stupid music going, and then 99 million silly little girls are on the internet going, wow, you're being fully retarded and you think that's talent. Okay, cool. Typical teen. They are somewhat mentally ill until their brain starts to kick in. And I know people look at me, boy, that's pretty harsh. I worked with teens, I can say that. I was a teen once too, and everything I thought was cool wasn't. When you get older, unless you don't grow up, and a lot of women don't, the holidays is evidence of that. The insistence on filling your house with crap and tinsel. And now you buy trees that are silver and gold, and what is the point? And fragile little, glass balls and stuff everywhere. Do you really need this? You're going to tell me this is about Jesus, or is it about you? Christmas has nothing to do with Jesus Christ. Wise men on camels showed up to recognize the King, not say Merry Christmas. And Christians manipulate, they lie, they say things, well, the evergreen tree symbolizes everlasting life. No, it doesn't. It's a pine tree. Here's something that's worth stating. Why do black people celebrate Christmas at all? It started out and always has been a white holiday. It was imported via the Catholics into Mexico, the Philippines, South America. Don't believe me? Do your research. African Americans in the U.S. that call us racist. Everything about us is racist. We're privileged. Why are they celebrating Christmas? That did not originate in Black Africa. Ever. Interesting. Now we're getting somewhere. Because there's two masters. There's Satan and there's God. And yes, I'm going to say it. Why is it that non-Christians who will laugh at you when you tell them about the gospel, man, I don't want to hear you preaching, and they're all saying Merry Christmas. They don't want to hear the truth of this, and they celebrate Christmas because it's pagan. The world does not have a problem with this because it's pagan. They do have a problem with this. They do have a problem with Jesus Christ. You don't believe me? Go to every person today in America that's saying Merry Christmas to everybody and say, do you know Jesus is your personal Lord and Savior? Man, don't be preaching that stuff. That's why he came, dude. He didn't come for you to have Christmas trees and feel good about yourself. He came to save those that were lost. I've made more than a case. And God's convinced me that this is not of him. But old traditions die hard. And that's just another layer to my life. And another percentage of people that will say, man, he's off base. Don't hang out with him. You think I would deliberately choose a way to have society reject me some more? No. But when you believe the truth, people think that's weird. They think you're weird. I mean, I'm a little weird anyway. But I know this, and I know what I've read. Jesus Christ came to die. We, in our traditions, make a big deal about the birth. And at the same time, by doing that, we're telling the world out there that we don't believe in an eternal God because, well, God was born, he has a birthday. And yet he's everlasting and he's eternal. Well, how can that be? He had a birthday. He did not have a birthday. Somebody wrote in the footnotes, and they talk about the birth of Christ, the man in body, but he was very God in the womb. That's why nobody used semen to impregnate Mary, because it was conceived by the Holy Spirit. You talk about a mystery. You're into mysteries. Try to figure out how God the Father's in heaven sends his son, and these are three in one, to be housed in a woman's body and to walk 33 years on this earth, but yet the Father is still in heaven, and God and Jesus communicated. That's a mind blower. And that's why people believe in evolution. That's why people, even Christians, deny things, because they can't get their head around the fact that the Bible says without faith it is impossible to please God. Many Christians don't want to believe in a literal Genesis. Well, Mike, that's not important. Really? So if Genesis is incorrect, and day doesn't mean a 24-hour period, and God created this world over billions of years, and we came from a big bang, that's not what this says. So we got a problem. If this book is wrong, then the rest is a house of cards. If evolution is true, then there is no God, and this is wrong. And therefore, there is no Jesus. But yet we have historical background. We have the writings of Josephus and others to prove that Jesus was on this earth. Josephus was not a Christian, by the way, but he was a historian. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating. I don't need tinsel and decorations. I need something bigger than that. Something that goes beyond a feeling. I'm a very feelings man. For a man, I have a lot more passion and feelings than most men out there. The birth of Jesus was heralded by angels. God moved on some men from what was then Persia to notice a star and follow that star over to where the child was. And we live in a world today that still believes in lies. Old habits die hard for all of us. Oh, my word. Here it is in Luke. And Mary said, my soul exalts in the Lord, and my spirit has rejoiced in God, my Savior, for he has regard for the humble state of his bondslave. Have you ever heard these TikTok queens or any Christian woman call themselves a bondslave of the Lord? I never have. For behold, from this time on, all generations will count me blessed. Now people will say, oh, see, Mike, see? So you pick on the Catholics. Wait a minute. The Catholic Church goes beyond that. They glorify her. That's a no-no. For the mighty one has done great things for me, and holy is his name, and his mercy is upon generation after generation towards those who fear him. He has done mighty deeds with his arm. He has scattered those who are proud in the thoughts of their heart. He has brought down rulers from their thrones and has exalted those who are humble. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent away the rich empty-handed. He has given help to Israel, his servant, in remembrance of his mercy, as he spoke to our fathers, to Abraham and his offspring forever. You know, Bible scholars say that Mary was somewhere between 14, 15, 16 years old. Have you ever heard an American teen girl talk like that? They think they're so smart, so cool. Have you ever? Today's teenagers are not capable of being married. They're not capable of uttering things like that. They've been dumbed down and raised in a system where kids are no longer taught to grow up like in the agricultural days when we had farms and most of America was farming, and young ladies were not sitting in the room on TikTok. They were up in the kitchen, scrubbing plank flooring, doing laundry the old-fashioned way, and cooking and baking, and learning how to be a wife and domesticated. Boys were not jacking off to porn and playing violent video games. They were out with dad, slopping the hogs, milking the cows, and learning how to furrow a field. We have watched, you go to Georgia, you used to be able to be allowed to be married 14, 15 years old because they weren't acting like silly little kids. You think about a woman when she starts growing equipment. It wasn't God's will to put a woman who's got breasts and nipples and her period and put her on ice till 18 or 21 or whatever. That has caused all kinds of problems. And now that we've dumbed down kids, they're not in a position to be married. They couldn't handle it. And for me to talk about this today is taboo. Mary was extremely mature because she feared God, because she didn't grow up in a silly little world. She was deeply devoted to God. Nobody hears of her. Nobody knows who she is until an angel makes an announcement. Most young ladies today are grossly immature. I see it with their videos. I see it with what they're doing. I'm just saying. Jesus Christ is probably truly worshiped less today than any other day in this culture alone. Mike, how can you say that? Notice I said the word worshipped. We give lip service to him. We want to read the biblical story to make it look Christian, and then we're all about Jesus, and then dash into the presents and dash into the food. What do the kids remember? The presents. I have my belief. I have an opinion. And for me, I don't participate in that. I don't jump on people who do. Many people wish me Merry Christmas. I said, thank you. Have a nice holiday. The holidays for me, my mother is not a Christian, but she'll say Merry Christmas. Oh, in fact, most of my family's not a Christian. Mormons say Merry Christmas. They don't even believe that Jesus is the only God. Are you following me? Everybody celebrates Christmas because it's safe. It's the devil's lie. When the majority of the world goes after something, what have we said? It's probably not of God. Broad is the road that leads to destruction. And yes, even the church enters onto that road sometimes to participate in those things, which we're not supposed to do. People don't like it when I say that. I'd love to be on a camel with the wise men and hear the discussions. Joseph was betrothed to his wife. Can you imagine what the community said when they saw Mary get a little hump? And guess what tomorrow will be? The 26th. Go back to the stores, exchange the gifts you don't want, go buy all the cheap, discarded wrapping paper, bows, ribbons, boxes, and crap when it's marked down to clear it out. I need something deeper than that. I think of Moses when he was on the mountain. He saw a bush on fire, but it wasn't burning up. I would love to have that experience. Going to see what is going on over here. Moses, Moses, take off your sandals. You're standing on holy ground. People want symbols and they want trinkets and they want little. I need an encounter with the holy. I need an encounter that moves me. I need an encounter that changes me. All those traditions and trappings don't do anything for me. And God in his life and his will for me has moved me and fenced me in where I cannot depend on anybody. And it's scary because you want people, you want family. Yes, I worry sometimes. It's not easy to say, I can tell everybody we need to trust God, and we do. But when it comes down to it, there's days when I'm going, God, are you really there? Because, yes, Michael, I am. Moses didn't get to know God with all the people around. Did you notice that? He's out there playing shepherd or whatever, and he goes around the backside of Mount Sinai and sees a bush on fire, and he's like, what is this? Moses got to know God and got the calling of God when he was literally alone and away from all the influences and voices and noise and din and Jesus is not the reason for Christmas. Christmas has its roots in Babylon, the winter solstice. The Bible tells us to stay away from idolatry. And we humans make a trip back to it every so often. And most Christians do it not once a year, but 3 times a year with Halloween, Christmas, and Easter. With Easter baskets, there's a whole chapter on this about Easter eggs, Easter baskets, hot cross buns. There's nothing biblical about it. And Christians will jump on my channel about my manner of tops that I wear and quote at me, but they won't look at the pagan festivities that they're involved in, and they defend it and they call it Christian. And the next time a Christian comes up and says, Happy Easter, I'm like, I don't celebrate Easter, foolish man. Easter is not Christian. And Halloween, man, you know Americans are dumb when Christians, churches now are hosting trunk or treat out of the back of a car. Unbelievable. And we wonder why the churches are closing. The church tried to be relevant and be cute and do and copy what the world does. And the world says, why do I want that? They're trying to be like me. If you don't have a passion for God and you don't have a passion for this word, it's going to show. And I notice that people that don't talk to me or speak to me at work suddenly were coming up, Merry Christmas, Mike. Merry Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas. I said, isn't that funny? It literally is like, it really is pagan. It really is. Now you're going to be nice to me, but you're not nice to me all year, and you call yourself a Christian. I live in a different world than most people. For those of you who have a family that love you, thank God. For those of you that have good parents and family that love you, praise his name. I tell people, be with family. Be with a community of people. That's important. 2 things are more important than anything else: relationship with God and a relationship with others. Not your truck, not your house. People and God matter. I thank everybody for listening, for showing up. And till next time, be safe.